Beautiful. One sec. I'm going to get Rich on the right camera.
Hello, mate.
Hiya, mate. Sorry, Izzy's got COVID, so I've been held up.
Dude, I'm so sorry. Are you all right to do this? Because we can postpone.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Yeah, I've Betty's at school and I've got stuff off to the childminder. It's just it's all very hectic because you're trying to fit everything. Because she's upstairs. I haven't seen her for 3 days. I just leave.
Shit.
I just leave cups of tea by the door.
Oh, no. I have to post omelettes and pizza under the door. Or just flat food.
Yeah.
Is she okay, though?
She's all right. She's better today. Have you had it?
Yes, I had it in the first lockdown. I had the first sort of version.
Oh, shit.
Which was abysmal. Yeah. It was weird. But then I had it recently, and it kind of just felt like a really bad cold.
Yeah, what was the original COVID like?
It was surreal because you didn't feel well, but you just felt weird. You had no energy. You couldn't do anything. You couldn't do anything at all. You just had to lay there feeling weird, hot and cold and odd, achy and bizarre. Your dreams were insane. Absolutely
a few
insane.
People told me that.
Yeah, I think maybe because we were locked down as well, so there weren't any of the normal distractions and the normal stresses of, I need to be here, I need to be there, because you were sort of spinning in your own dome. Your dreams, I think, was just going back over everything you've ever experienced, and all people from your past were popping up in your dreams.
Oh my God.
It was bizarre.
Oh, no,
yeah.
No,
have you not had that one? You not had it?
I've not recovered at all. Izzy's got it now, but we avoided it until Friday night. She went to see Half Man Half Biscuit in Nottingham. And
Very
I think
cool.
that is where she got it from.
Yeah.
No, so she came back and felt rough. And I went to bed and I said, well, I thought I've got quite a busy week, so if you've got a bad cold, I'll sleep in with Betty anyway. And then she tested positive the next day, so...
Shit, mate. I mean, it's a cool way to get it, to be honest. Half Man, Half Biscuits.
Yeah,
brilliant.
well, I mean, if we'd been able to get a babysitter, we both would have gone to that gig. So you tossed up a coin that she got. T was the ticket.
Yeah. Oh, mate.
Never mind.
Well, get well soon, Izzy. I hope she's all right. She's all right, mate. Having seen films where they've had to lock someone away because they're contagious and then they become zombies and werewolves and all sorts. Can't imagine what's going on in that room right now. But are you good apart from that? You all right?
I'm good. Yeah. I'm good, actually. Not too bad at all.
Good. Because you popped up on Rod and Sean's episode.
Oh, yeah.
We were talking about when you were at school. And Sean was telling us some stories. Because you were at school with Sean.
I was, yeah.
And she was telling us, we've got a clip. We're going to put it in. We'll put it in now.
Okay, then. Hold fire. Yeah. Here it comes. This is... You've got some things to answer to, Elis.
Right. Oh, I can't hear that. I can't hear that, I'm afraid.
Hang on. Elis can't hear it.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah.
Okay, 1 second.
It's very, very faint.
Okay, I'm going to... 1 second. Oh, yes, that is terribly faint. That's all. Right. I'll just restart that. Here we go.
We were taken into a room by the teacher, and then they talk about whilst all the boys were outside, like doing shapes on the window and like doing moonies and stuff. And they're like, "Ooh, they're talking about periods."
Is that Elis? Is it?
All
Is that
of
Elis
them.
James?
Yeah, Elis James. And I'm
Sounds
naming
like Elis
names.
James.
It does,
Yeah,
doesn't it?
it does,
But all the boys
He
are
still
outside.
does that when you have your period. He still comes down here and moons through the window.
I lived with him for 10 years. He's every month.
He's
every month
he's got the app on his phone that he knows when you're on your period.
Clue.
That's what happened. You were in sync, weren't you?
Yeah,
That's what happened. Every
I
time
was
you had
in
a period,
sync.
he'd pull his trousers down.
It's like one of those clocks where I come out with my period and he comes out the other side and does a move.
It got so bad. You were in sync with his bum and the moon rather than the moon.
Moon cycle. This is brilliant. So, there we are. I think I'll do for just I think we tortured him enough.
Oh my God.
Well, she's got me bang to rights there. That's my teenage years in a nutshell, and that's when I lived with Sean for 10 years in a nutshell. She would have a period, and I'd pull my trousers down. And to be honest, it's only now, with the sort of, looking back at it with arm's length, You know, because it's 10 years since I lived with her. It's only now that becomes weird, but at the time, it just felt completely normal and rational.
It was, there we go, we all did it. We always...
Yeah, God. The 2000s. Women would have periods and their male housemates would just pull their trousers down. Good days.
I was saying earlier, I went to an all-boys school, and there was a time when it was just an ocean of dicks. There was just dicks everywhere, or arses everywhere. I remember we used to do a lesson. An ocean of dicks. It was just so many. Every time we turned around, someone had their dick out. It was disgusting. But I remember we used to do, there was one of our lessons was motor vehicle studies, and we'd have old cars donated that we would fill around with the engines, and we'd pull them apart and all that. And when I look back now, I'm like, oh, those are some classic cars that we fucked up.
Yeah.
But one of them, we used to sit in one, and the lads used to, at lunch break, and they'd smoke in the car and things like that. And it was the first time I heard Nina Simone, My Baby Just Cares for Me, because it came on the radio. And then Glenn Hutchins started to do a striptease in the car, and just shoved his ass over the back seat, over the seats to where we were sitting. So every time I hear that song, I think of Glenn Hutchins' ass.
Yeah, teenage boys have got an amazing way of spoiling what could be quite nice memories. that should be amazing. It's your school days, your salad days, you're mending a classic car, you hear Nina Simone for the first time, and what's that? Oh, it's a bum. It's my friend's bum. It's always the same.
Yeah, and but like you've just said, you know, then it was just what happened. Everyone was like, yeah, that's fine.
We would, I don't know if it's because all of the kids I know, and I know lots of kids, but they're all under the age of about 8. So I don't know anyone really between the ages of 8 and about 25 or 30. So the teenage years and the early 20s really, apart from a couple of exceptions, are a gap. Now, think back to my own teenage years, very, very Mooney dominated. So we would get, a teacher of mine would organise buses to watch Welsh internationals in the football.
Yeah.
So my first experiences of watching football were going with the school, because my dad didn't take me. And there'd be, 5 or 6 coaches leaving our school at about 4:15 to get to kick-off, to Cardiff for kick-off. And we'd be sort of passing each other on the motorway. And it was just Moonies. And now, if I was driving along in the motorway on a bus, and a friend of mine said, pull your trousers down and press your bum cheeks against the window, I'd say, are you insane? Of course I'm not going to do that. Are you mad?
What it would take, and there'd be other people in other vehicles going, is that Elis James?
Yeah, what's he doing? And also, I think the worst bit of a Mooney is then when you've got to pull your trousers and pants back up. Yep, finished now. That's done now. I was showing my bum then, but now I think the time for bum showing is over actually. So I'm just going to put my trousers and pants back up. And we can carry on with what we were discussing a minute ago.
Anyway, yeah. Oh, sorry, yeah, what were you saying?
What were you saying? Until I got my bum out.
Oh, sorry about that. Just got distracted there. Anyway, back to you. I remember, it's funny doing things like that. I used to do gigs out in Cyprus. And they had
army ones.
Yeah, and they had this. There was this truck, this 4-wheel drive truck that they had that we were allowed to use to get around. And I remember we were driven along by somebody, and they talked about someone had mucked around, stood on the foot rails on the side of this truck while it was moving. And we were driving along, and I went, "Oh, that'd be really fun. That'd be really fun." So I did it. So I got out of the truck, and I'm hanging on the side as it's driving along.
Sort of like A-Team style, or
yeah.
Sorry, any listeners to your podcast under the age of 42 will not know what I'm talking about. But the Dukes of Hazzard, they never got into the car through the door.
No,
they would always jump in through the window. It was kind of a sort of a motif of a recurring motif of the show.
Well, it was funny because the Dukes of Hazzard, they had their doors welded shut because it was a stock car. It was supposed to be a racing car thing. But you watch now. I watched Starsky and Hutch the other day. And there's bits where they're chasing cars around, they're skidding around corners, and and they're like jumping across the bonnet and things like that. And I was watching it now, and I'm like, it's just quicker to just run round. Why are you jumping across the bonnet? And then skidding around corners? Like, if you just took that a little slower, you'd have got around the corner quicker.
Also, if I was driving around in an old stock car and the doors were welded shut and I had to jump into the car through the window every time, by the third time, you've caught your knee.
Then you got to get the shopping. If you left the shopping outside.
Completely disabled. You've caught your ankle. You've landed too hard. You've landed on your bum on the sort of side of the window. No thanks.
The novelty's gonna wear off pretty sharp, isn't it?
I would just get into my car very, very gingerly. So it would take me ages to climb into the window because the doors were welded shut.
You'd have a little step that you could step into.
Yeah, like little kids do when they learn to go to the toilet. Just a little step, just a little plastic step for me to get into my stock car.
And then you'd have to lean out and fish it in. When you got in, you'd have to lean out and get the step. It's a different program now. This is more like Last of the Summer Wine, Dukes of Hazzard style.
Sorry, I rudely interrupted you there.
Rich. No, it's fine. I was just talking about the fact that. So I got out and I'm hanging on the side of this truck, but the people in the truck were just chatting away like I wasn't even there. So I'm just hanging on the side of this truck. It wasn't like, whoa, look what we're doing all together. It was like they just carried on having a chat, and I'm just hanging on the side of this truck.
Yeah,
it was pointless. So pointless.
But also, as a comic who's performing for soldiers in Cyprus as part of those British Army gigs, if you'd had an accident and fallen off a car, that would have been such a great comic's death. I mean, you'd been on the front cover of Chortle, cause of death, larking around. Couldn't resist it. It's like lots of the comics who do those gigs, they often have their photos taken sort of holding guns.
Yeah. And
you just think, if this goes wrong again, that's a great comic's death, isn't it?
It'd be brilliant. It's the other comics that are on the gig holding an urn. And a steering wheel. It's what you would have wanted. That's the way you want to go. Memorably.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I just want a really, really, really silly death. I've said this on a few things. I want to fall over in an awkward way for me to go up my bum and then for me to die from that.
Found.
Found, yeah. And it had actually gone up his bum until he died.
Like an umbrella or something like that.
Yeah. Like a big sort of like civil servant's umbrella, like the kind of brolly people had in sort of British films in the 60s. But I would just slip on it.
It'd be a really robust one, a really strong one that opened up and fanned you out. And they just find you, just fanned out.
What was the funeral like? Oh, funny. I mean, we had a right laugh at the funeral. We just kept reenacting his cause of death, and
it rained, ironically.
Yeah. It was a funny shaped coffin, mind you.
Like a mushroom. That's the best way I've heard anyone talk about death. I'd like that. I'd like to go in an unusual way.
Yeah.
1 minute I'm just walking along, next minute I'm just gone.
Yeah.
I think. I don't fancy the long drawn out kind of.
Oh my God.
Can't wipe your own arse and all that sort of thing.
I heard a bloody horrendous story though from New York, where a bloke was just minding his own business, walking to work or something, and the pavement collapsed because there was an old Victorian era sewer underneath him. Have you heard this?
No.
So he just fell into the sewer, landed on his back, at which point he was covered by thousands of rats.
Oh my God.
Can you imagine anything worse than that? So obviously he didn't want to. So in the end, the passers-by realised what had happened and they called 911 and they came to get him. But he was lying there trying to keep quiet because all these rats were on top of him and he didn't want to bring attention to himself, which strikes me as being one of the most terrifying things I've ever heard, I think.
Yeah. The fact that he had the wherewithal to go, I'm going to keep quiet.
Yeah, pretty impressive, isn't it?
I'd be screaming my fucking head off.
I'd be screaming as well. I mean, to land on your back and then immediately be covered with rats, and for you not to go, fucking hell, fuck. Like I occasionally, and I know I shouldn't, and I try not to, and the agreement is that I don't, but I occasionally swear in front of my kids. And I don't know, like I can't remember what it was. I was trying to fix a toy or something, and the sort of the screw I was trying to unscrew sort of snapped off.
Right.
And so that now means we can't change the batteries, and I know this is going to be upsetting. I said, "Oh, fuck's sake!" Now, if I'm saying "fuck's sake" in that scenario, being covered with live rats, I mean, at fuck's sake, it's not really sufficient, is it?
I don't think there's enough. There aren't enough words. There's not the word.
No.
I think it would just be, I'd be screaming at such a pitch. You probably wouldn't hear it anyway.
Yeah. All the bats in the area would be going absolutely crazy.
That's what you want. The rats, and then the bats turn up.
Because Rich Wilson's had a fall.
Oh, that poor fucker.
Yeah.
Because I know rats, I know somebody that had a rat, and they're extremely clever, and it was a wonderful pet, and they
Which
loved
makes
it.
it creepier, I think.
And but I think lots of them together, they would have been startled as well because of the thing falling in.
Yes.
So they'd feel under attack. Jesus.
I think I'm not scared of spiders, and I'm not scared of snakes. I mean, I would be if I was abroad. So I'm not scared of British spiders. I'm not scared of sort of British domestic snakes. Although I did gigs in Australia about 10 years ago, and I remember being slightly more concerned about the spiders' eggs. I didn't know which ones were dangerous and which ones weren't, but I thought that was quite rational. But sort of a normal spider doesn't bother me. But there is something about rats. I just think that they're the creepiest looking animal on earth, I think.
Yeah.
And occasionally, because I live in London, and this is the kind of thing that happens when you live in a big city, you will just see a dead rat on the side of the road.
Yeah.
And they always look like they've died in a sort of horrendous way as well. They're always like, ah! They never look at peace, do they, dead rats?
No. Like they're just going about their day and a nice time.
Yeah.
And then they just died. No, there's always, it looks like something bad.
A traumatic event.
Yeah. I remember I used to deliver hairdressing wholesale products. I got to this place in Erith in South London.
Oh yeah.
And as I got the box out, I saw in the corner of my eye by these bushes, I thought it was a cat. And I just looked, and it was the biggest rat I've ever seen in my entire life. It was massive. It was like a cat. And I shit myself.
Yes. Oh my God.
Yeah, it scurried into the bushes. The tail was so long, and it just went off, and you're like, have I just seen the king of the rats? Like, have I seen Shredder? Jesus. It was massive.
Do you reckon he looks at himself in the mirror and thinks, I am pretty fucking big for a rat, actually. just judging by, the size of my mates and, family and stuff. I am a big one. I'm scaring delivery men who sort of are delivering hairdressing products in the South London area. You've got lovely hair as well.
Sorry?
You've got lovely hair.
Oh, thank you very much. So have you.
Oh, thanks. You've gone for the old centre part thing.
Only today, and I've not put anything in it because I've got a hat today. I'm wearing a hat.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Very nice.
But you know what? It's funny. When we first met, I often tell people this story. We didn't know each other. We didn't even know we were both on at the same gig.
Yeah.
We were doing Silky's gig
in Cardiff.
In Cardiff.
It was
at the uni.
At the uni, but it was the Royal College of Music and Drama.
That's it.
Performing.
That's it. And this is when I was more into my mod thing. I think, and we'd both seen each other from across the room. And we were both very similar in style, the mod thing.
Yes.
And silently to ourselves, we've gone, he looks cool. He looks cool.
Yeah.
And then Silky came in and went, oh, by the way, this is Elis, this is Rich. And we were like, fuck, this is, yeah.
And it's a bit like, occasionally I will be driving along or something with Izzy in the car, and I will point someone out and I'll go, he goes to football. And she'll say, how do you know? I'll say, I can tell from his coat and from his trainers that he goes to football. It is inconceivable that man doesn't go to football because he's got a football coat and he's got football trainers. And it's partly, I'm not really a comedian. I'm more of a sort of social anthropologist these days.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah.
Just clocking everyone in their Stone Island.
Yeah, like sort of David Attenborough, but for men.
Like real men, like football men.
Yeah, real lads.
But you can see there is a look. Where I live in Stratford, so I live in sort of near West Ham Stadium. And when the football's on, you see the lads then, and they've all got their long coats or their long Macs and their flat caps. And it's quite a look. And you can see you're going to the football. You know.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think actually there's less of this around. I think football, in that sense, is one of the last of those clothing-based subcultures that's still quite big. Because I think you could date the British High Street pretty accurately to the sort of 12 months to the year from about 1955 onwards, judging by how the teenagers would dress.
Yeah.
Because they'd be dressed like mods, or they'd be dressed like skinheads or hippies, or in a sort of more in a more sort of glam style, or in a more sort of a northern soul sort of style, and then there's the punk style, and I think, and then you've got through to sort of Smiths fans had a look, and then Stone Roses fans had a look, and blah blah blah, and then Acid House, all the ravers had a sort of very certain distinct look. And a mate of mine, he lived in Brighton in the sort of early 80s, and he said it was a nightmare for me because I was a young mod, but I would want to walk down to the beach on a Saturday morning just to see my mates. But first off, I'd have to pass the skinheads, and they'd start on me.
Jesus.
And then if I'd managed to escape the skinheads, the casuals who were on their way to watch Brighton play would start on me. And then it'd be like the punks, and then the punks might start to me. So there was the punks, skins, and the casuals were all trying to chase me. Then by the time I got to the beach, I was knackered and scared. and then you'd have the goths, and you'd be like, well, they're all right. They're not going to bother anyone. That's one that still exists. You still see, especially in smaller towns, you still see kids who are dressed like goths.
Goths are still huge. Yeah. There's a huge community. There is a massive mod community. It's an older generation now. They're still fighting the fight. They're still there. I remember going to a scooter rally, and there was these massive skinheads there, scooter boys, huge. And they were. And if you were to encounter them in any other situation, you'd be a bit worried. You'd be a bit, oh shit, that looks like. Yeah. Because of the stereotypes, you're kind of like, oh, he's going to kick off. Like the shiniest Doc Martens I've ever seen, immaculately turned out, beautiful looking men, incredible, but massive, and they look like any minute now it's going to kick off. But then
necks.
this northern soul tune kicked in, and they become like ballet dancers.
Yeah.
These massive skinheads just pirouetting around, and it was one of the most glorious things I've ever seen.
Well, the Cardiff City hooligan firm were called the Soul Crew because the two things they liked were fighting and soul music. I mean, and if it sounds like a lie, but that is true. The thing with mods or subculture that's still going. I used to know a bloke in Cardiff who ran mod nights, and he booked out this huge venue. And he said, "Would you come?" And I said, "Absolutely." And I went, and I was the first one there. So it's a completely empty dance floor. The music's really, really loud, and my mate was behind the decks, playing sort of soul tunes and stuff. And this venue was massive, and I thought, "Oh my God, he's going to lose an absolute fortune." So after about an hour, it's still just me.
Oh no!
And I thought, well, I can't dance because it would look like I'm taking the piss. So I just sort of sat next to him and had a few pints, thinking, offering him to buy him drinks because I thought he's going to be in turmoil.
Yeah. And
he kept saying to me, there is a coachload of mods coming from East London, and there is a coachload of mods coming from Birmingham, and they will be here. I remember thinking, mate, you're deluded. there is no coachload of Cockney mods. It's just not going to happen. And at about midnight, they all turned up. What? And this is probably 2005, so I reckon a few of them would have been, they were all much older, so I reckon a few of them would have been first generation 60s mods properly, because
Oh, wow.
they were all in their 60s, and they were all bald because they'd all lost their hair, but they all had immaculately sort of tailored Italian suits. They all looked the part. They all looked great, and they were amazing dancers. But it was like something out of a film. I thought for hours I thought he was lying / deluded / just. I thought he's lost it if he thinks this. And then the coach load of Brummie mods turned up as well, and then they went. It was like a sort of mod fairy tale about when they end. They all got back on the bus.
See, it's a beautiful thing. I love it when things work out, and it is. I've loved fashion since I can remember, and it's funny. I watched that film Away Days. I'm not really big on football, but I love that film because it talks about the fashion and it talks about the relationship between the lads in the gang, and how they weren't really into the fighting. They were just part of something, and they wanted to get away from it. And then he's got a stack of Adidas boxes, and he's got the Adidas Forest Hills with the beyond, with ones with a yellow sole, white sole. And it's brilliant. It's just a nice moment. But I've always been fascinated by the connection between music, fashion, and football. Or it's amazing.
And I think as well, the men who dress like that, I suppose nowadays they'd be known. I mean, in the 80s they were known as dressers or trendies, but they're sort of known as casuals now. That's how they're written about in the press. I think, interestingly, they're dressing for other men.
Yeah.
They're not dressing for women to find them attractive.
No.
They're dressing for other men to go, that's a nice jacket.
Which is a mod thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I quite like the peacockery of it.
Yeah.
Going to watch your team, but thinking that you're an ambassador for your team, so you want to wear a nice jacket so that fans of other clubs don't think that your team has got scruffy fans. I love that.
That's lovely. I've never heard that before. It's a good point, actually. And it is true, there is that. I do remember when I used to go to mod nights, and even now when I wear stuff, there's a certain kind of person that I want to say, like, you look great, mate. You look
yes,
fucking
absolutely.
Great. It's not even about being attractive to people. I want there's people that I know or see around.
Yes.
Yeah, you look cool, man.
There's a certain kind of person who I want to go, that's a nice jacket.
Yeah.
And to be honest, if the others don't like it, it doesn't really bother me. No. But the ones I want to notice, if they notice, I think, good.
Yeah.
Done my job.
But it is about that. We still want affirmation from our peers or people that we admire. We still want to feel like we're part of something, even though at the same time we want to be individual. But at the same time, we want to be part of something.
Yeah.
It's a real weird mixture.
That's
of feelings.
Why when bands who were not critically acclaimed, but who were very popular, would win the audience vote at, I don't know, the Brits or whatever.
Yeah.
And then they would say, this means more to us because it's voted for by the fans than by the critics. I would always think, bollocks. Bollocks.
Yeah, you're chatting shit,
You'd love
mate.
to be on the front cover of the Enemy and to get 10 out of 10 album reviews. You'd love it. I don't believe you for a second. Yeah, I don't care what the critics say, don't you?
No, of course you don't.
Sounds like a lie, that, mate.
That's why you're here.
Yeah.
But it's unusual that, because I mean, again, we're probably talking stereotypes, but because you're Welsh, I just assumed you'd be more into your rugby than your football.
No, absolutely not. No, my dad is.
Mm.
So as I mentioned, those school trips with the Moonies, that was where my first football matches were with the school, because my dad would take me to rugby.
Yeah.
But I sort of lost interest in rugby by my early teens. I think mainly because Welsh team had a good side in the football and a very bad team in the rugby by that point.
Mm.
And also, it just wasn't... I went to a real rugby school, so there's Stephen Jones, the British Lion, was a couple of years ahead of me.
Yeah, right.
Ken Owens, the British Lion, he was in my sister's class. We had quite a few so Welsh internationals have been to my school. 2 were there when I was there. But it wasn't really a very, because I'm quite small. I was very, very thin when I was a teenager, and I never thought it was a very accessible game if you were small.
Yes.
And also, I didn't like the rugby club stuff of eating cat food and drinking pints of cider.
Oh, yeah, the shenanigans.
The shenanigans really did put me off. And nowadays, looking back at it, I find the shenanigans, sort of the second-hand stories of the shenanigans 25 years on, very, very funny. But at the time, I was really desperate not to be involved in any shenanigans. And I didn't want to have to do a butt funnel or any of that stuff.
But do you know what? I'm friends with a rugby player, and he's one of the biggest men I've ever seen. Like proper professional rugby players.
Oh, huge.
Are giants.
Yeah.
Fucking massive. And even though, we'd get pissed, and all of us having a drink, and this is when we're with our partners as well. Like, you know, we're all getting pissed. And it ended up my then wife at the time, she's in the kitchen with her mates. I'm in the lounge with him, and we're all getting pissed. And there's this drinking going, you've got to drink whatever I tell you, otherwise you've got to do a forfeit. And it got to the point I just couldn't drink anymore. My last drink, I'd kind of drunk it and then was nearly puked it back up again. I was that bad. I'm like, I can't do any more. I'm going to have to do the forfeit. I ended up with his nut in my mouth. And like I said, he was a giant man. This is a big nut.
Yeah.
And I did it really quickly. I just went, well, why has it got to be that? Why can't it be something else? Why
You
can't
did it really quickly.
Yeah, he kind of whopped it out, and I went, oh, like that, and so I gummed it.
That's
and then
good. So over and done with, nice and quick.
Done, and yeah, you're in and out.
Done and dusted. In and out.
Yeah, another jobbed.
Make you sound like that's how I discuss the sort of the MMR vaccine with my kids. Just in and out, job done, voila.
I'm really piling through this to-do list today. Oh, nip to the shops, get some milk.
Yeah.
Gum a nut.
Gum and nuts. Yeah, I quite like sort of second or third hand shenanigan stories. I just never wanted to be at the centre of shenanigans.
No, it doesn't look fun. I don't like anyone that tells me, like, oh, I love pranks. I love watching the prank shows. I'm like, no, I don't like. Oh, you're a shitbag.
Not a prank guy.
No.
Also, I'm not very imaginative, and I'm certainly not very imaginative when it comes to pranks. So it would be, I don't know, someone said, oh, should we do a prank? What would be a really good prank? I'd be like, I don't know, should we just, I don't know, like, piss in some milk? It's not very, you use like some pranks, they'll take like months of planning. And you see it online, and, you know, some bloke, he's gone to lectures, and he left the house at 10 to 9, and they know he's not going to be back until 5 past. And in that time, they'll have turned his bedroom into a beach. There'll be deck chairs, and there'll be like loads of sand and buckets and spades and all that kind of stuff. And he'll just be like, "That's a great prank. Yeah, good prank. Oh, what did Elis do? He pissed in my milk. Pretty low rent, actually.
More annoying than anything.
Yeah, more just."
It's not. I've just bought that as well.
annoyance.
It was a fresh carton. I've now got to go and buy some more milk.
Yeah, nice one.
Thanks, mate. Anyway, I'll go and sit in my beach. You go and get me some more milk, dickhead.
Yeah, I'm going to go and do an assignment in my beach.
I do remember being away again at gigs, and there was a comedian, Steve Harris, and he every time I'm with him, this is what he does. He's just prank after prank, and I love him dearly, but after a while, like, oh, fuck's sake, yeah, you can't take your eye off him for a minute.
Yeah.
And I remember I got up to go to the loo, and he just squirted water over me. Oh no, that was it. I'd gone to the loo, and while I said to him as I left, I went, "Don't fuck with my stuff," which is
Yes,
an invitation, isn't it?
Yes.
To someone like that.
Yeah, you'd be naive there.
Yeah, you're ridiculous. You've opened the doors. Let him in.
Don't engage me in fun, okay?
Yeah, don't fuck with my shit. It's basically inviting a vampire into your house.
Yeah.
So I went to the toilet and I came back, and as I walked back into the room, he squirted me with water, and I'm like, "What the fuck, man?"
Did it look like you pissed yourself?
No, just all over me. Yeah, it was on my trousers mainly. It was all over me. And so,
was it before you'd done your set?
This was during the afternoon. We were all kind of in
okay.
these. We were in these like bunks.
Oh, that's more annoying.
Yeah. So I'm like, fuck's sake. So I go. So now I'm dicking around, and I'm like, I'm gonna have to get changed, and I'm messing around. Everybody else in the room is killing themselves laughing, and I'm thinking I'm having the gig of my life. Everyone's pissing themselves laughing.
Yeah.
The more I gooned about, the funnier, more people laughed. They were filming it. I'm like, oh my God. And I'm playing up to the camera, mucking around. So then I take my trousers off and I go to put these other trousers on and I put my leg in and I put one leg in first and then that's fine. Went to put the other one in and he'd sewn it shut. So in the short time I was in the toilet, he'd managed to sew my leg shut on my trousers. And I just happened to put one leg in first and then went to put the other one on and I was like, what's going on here? I thought I've caught my foot in like a crease or something like that. And I'm trying to, by now the whole room is falling around. And then I suddenly twig what's gone on. And like, you bunch of wankers, and you let me goon about, and you were all like, I thought you were laughing at me.
That's also,
With what I was doing.
that's, in the time you were in the toilet,
Yeah.
to sew your trousers shut.
I was in the toilet 5 minutes, if that.
That is absolutely extraordinary.
Yeah. He managed to sew them shut in a matter of seconds. I don't know how he managed it to this day. And every year when it comes up on his memories, he reposts the video because it's on Facebook.
That man is dedicated to pranking.
Isn't it? I mean, it's horrible. It's funny now, but at the time I was so embarrassed. But you kind of just have to ride it out and laugh and go along with it. But I was so embarrassed.
I haven't got that much dedication to anything.
Good. It's not a good thing to just torture people.
What creates a prankster?
It's got to be a shit house, isn't it? You've got to have a weird upbringing. I think he was brought up with 5 sisters and they terrorised him.
Yeah, I was going to say it must be a sibling thing. I reckon. I reckon if you've got maybe siblings of a similar age, I reckon that would be quite big.
Yeah.
But no, it just all seems like a lot of. I just don't think I've got enough energy to be a prankster.
You're very low key. It would have been, like you just said, there'd be sneaky pranks. I think or whatever you at the time. If something came to mind, you'd go, "Oh yeah, I'll just do that," like pissing in the milk.
I remember a mate when I was in my early 20s, and he was upset with his housemate. I remember him smoking into her milk.
Oh God!
I remember thinking, "What if we're animals? What is happening? Have it out with her."
Yeah, just talk to her. Why have you got to fuck her up?
Talk to her, man.
Yeah.
Why are you smoking into another person's milk?
This is a different level, isn't it? This isn't. You don't want to resolve the issue. You want revenge. And for whatever slight has come your way, that some imagined slight, you're like, right, I'm going to ruin your life.
Revenge is a funny one. I always thought I thought I was the norm. I actually don't think I am anymore. I've never ever felt the desire to exact revenge on someone.
Really?
No, like I follow a Twitter account called Fesshole, where people anonymously confess to their darkest secrets. And a lot of them are, oh, my ex dumped me by text message, so I did X, Y, and Z. You know, I saw one the other day where he or she had bought like 100 sets of keys and written his phone number on the keys and then left them all around, you know, London or Manchester, wherever they lived. So people would find these keys and think, oh my God, I need to let this person know. How lucky that his phone number is attached to the keys. So it means I can return it. So he just got hundreds of messages that people saying, I've got your keys. Which is very imaginative. I just think if I'd been dumped in horrendous circumstances, I think I'd brood more than exact revenge on someone. I think.
Yeah, I've thought there's a moment in the middle of being pissed off, and I've gone, fuck this. I'm gonna go and shit through your letterbox or something.
Yeah.
But I calmed down quick enough. I'm like, what's the point? This just makes it worse.
I think what would calm you down or make you see sense would be the moment the envelope touched your naked bum I think then you would think to yourself, what am I doing?
I'm shitting into an envelope.
It's an envelope, you mad idiot.
That says more about where you are mentally than I am. Because when I thought it, I was just going to go around it and just shit directly through the letterbox. Where you're going to post it to them.
Yeah. Oh,
It's
yeah.
a very organised thing.
Well, I think I am
and it would be more
assuming
practical.
that shitting directly into a letterbox is a criminal offence, and I think, as is posting excrement, that's a criminal offence. But I think it would be easier to get away with, I think, if you were posting it. Also, it's likely to be caught when you're doing it. When you're doing this, presumably under cover of darkness.
Yes.
You know, it's a very exposing position to be in, isn't it?
Yeah, and you can't stop once you've started. So,
Yeah,
if someone finds you,
Yeah, and running away with a sort of shitty ass would be a horrible experience if you were caught. It'd be itchy and embarrassing.
oh god, yeah, because you wouldn't have time. They wouldn't let you wipe yourself down. You'd
No.
It's evidence. So
Yeah.
you'd have to sit with that crusty, itchy ass.
There wouldn't be a moment of the whole episode where you felt good.
It's definitely not the revenge. The
No.
person you've done it to just wins again.
Yeah, absolutely.
But then with the envelope as well, you'd have to make sure you didn't lick the envelope. You have to get one of those gummed ones because
Yeah,
then there's DNA on there. There's evidence
yes,
that it
that's
was
true.
you.
I'm assuming that the police, if they took it seriously enough, could take DNA from your feces.
Could you think? Yeah, because I suppose they could be in there, wouldn't it? Any?
You'd be in there again. Not a very nice job for a PC plot. Hours work, horrible.
Some lunatic
Yeah.
who got dumped. That was it.
Anyway, we know it's Rich Wilson. He left a return address on the back of the envelope. We're gonna go and nick him tomorrow.
He's so organised. Bless him.
Yeah, registered post.
You got a sign for it. Oh my god. Well, I'm glad we had this conversation because it now means that maybe someone listening to this will think twice before exacting any kind of revenge. Kind of, if someone's upset you to that point, either talk to them or just fuck them. You know, it's up, if they want to be that shit, good luck to them. Because they'll do it to someone else. They'll just keep doing it, and then they'll end up alone. So
yeah, because we are of a similar age.
Mm.
So the two of us both remember, although it's going back a while now, John Wayne Bobbitt. Remember him?
God, yeah.
So she sliced off his penis whilst he was asleep, from what I remember.
Yeah.
And then drove off and threw it into a hedge.
God. Oh, because hadn't he been cheating or something like that?
I mean,
whatever it was.
whatever it was, I think that the punishment is disproportionate.
Yeah.
It was the fight. It was the bloody. It was the. It was the finale. It was the fact that as a denouement, throwing the penis into a hedge was always my favourite bit of that news story. And then he went into pornography, from what I remember.
Yes, he did. With his rebuilt member.
With his rebuilt penis.
I mean, that is someone that you've fucked off to such a level that they will drive your penis into the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
So that you will never find it.
Imagine looking for it.
And then getting caught by the police. What are you doing?
I couldn't find my son's birth certificate quite recently. And we were going up to the deadline where he wouldn't have been able to go to school if we hadn't found this deadline, if we hadn't found this birth certificate. And we eventually found it, but there was a lot of pressure on the search. And so I thought, until I mentioned John Wayne Bobbitt, someone who hasn't been in the news now for almost 30 years, I thought I knew what a high-pressure search was. But imagine looking in just a hedge. And you can't use a metal detector or anything. Just the naked eye, a torch, and a lot of hope.
She's on the doorstep going, cold, colder. Oh, getting warmer.
Oh man!
Oh my God! I mean, there isn't. There's nothing that warrants that. Getting your getting your fella.
It's quite medieval, isn't it?
Yeah, God, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've trapped my penis in the zip of my jeans once.
Oh.
Yeah, you'll only do it once.
Yeah.
You'll never. Once you've done it once, you are forever prepared.
Yeah, my dad's best mate did that at school in
Yeah.
about 1966. And it's a story that was passed down the generations. Oh yeah, what a nasty little episode that would be. Ow.
Because you
Ow,
can't.
ow, ow.
Because what they say is you got to just whip it down really quickly.
Oh,
And sorry to any listeners. Well, I remember. Is it something about Mary or something like that when he gets his bits caught in the zip and then the guy goes, whoa, he goes, how'd you get the beans above the frank?
I'm just going to butt in here because I'm obviously work for Comedy Central. We now have a warning whenever we play that film, and the warning says reviewers should be aware that this film contains the worst zipper malfunction on film, and we have to put that there as a verbal warning to in case it triggers anybody.
Oh, God.
Yeah. There we go.
Oh, well done.
Trivia.
Well, so, yeah.
ow, ow, ow.
I mean, that's gonna fuck with your mental health. That.
Yes.
We should move on.
Oh.
We should move
You'd
on.
wear tracksuits for the rest of your life, wouldn't you?
Yeah, of course you would. I remember being the first time I had a pair of jeans with buttons. The relief of knowing that the likelihood of you buttoning up your fella.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen.
No. There are too many processes before you would get to that stage.
Yeah, no one's in that much of a rush.
No, absolutely not.
But I mean, the talk of mental health is now, it's good. We're all talking about it, and it's good. But, like you said earlier, like we're of a similar age, you and I. But have you been able to talk about your feelings and, about how, are there people that you've been able to sort of talk about these things with?
Nish Kumar made a very interesting point. I read an interview with him, and Nish is about 5 years younger than me, I think. And he said, my generation are the worst because we know we're meant to get therapy, but none of us ever bother. And we tell everyone else to do it, but we don't do it ourselves. I'm about 5 years older than Nish, and I think that, yes, I think that I'd sort of, Shana, you've had on this podcast, my best friend at school, so obviously because she was a girl, she was far more open about her feelings than my male friends were.
Yeah.
But then, having worked so closely with John Robbins, who is a tremendously emotionally intelligent person and a very emotionally articulate person. Yes, I am, and obviously Izzy, but I think I've always had people in my life who I've been able to talk to. And my mum and dad, in fairness, were very open people when I was younger. But still, ultimately, it was still sort of West Wales in the 80s and 90s. And I remember, crying in school at secondary school for whatever reason. And it was immensely embarrassing. And I remember getting a basketball in the face.
Oof.
And you can't get a basketball in the face without shedding a tear.
No. God, no.
But then everyone's like, he's fucking crying. So it was still a lot of that.
Yeah.
And the small experience I've had of teenagers, because obviously my kids are younger than that, but certainly the teenagers I am aware of or their parents who I know, I think that especially boys are better or seem to be better at opening up than when I was in school in the 1990s.
Definitely, yeah.
I'd have been, if a friend of mine actually had come up to me in school and said, I'm struggling with something or I'm upset about something, I wouldn't have seen anything wrong with it because my mum is a very, very open person, especially, as is my dad. But Mum is a very, very approachable person. But I just can't I can barely imagine it happening.
Yeah.
And I think people probably are better at this stuff now. But I've always been lucky because with Izzy and John and Sian, especially when I was younger, there's always been someone. But I think if you don't have that, it must be absolutely crippling.
Yeah.
Because even if you do have very strong friendships, and even if you do have very open relationships with people where you're able to discuss your feelings, usually something will crop up that you think, oh, I'm not comfortable to talk about this. And one thing I've noticed actually is I think I process bad news differently to some people. So lots of my friends, if something bad happens to them, they will want to discuss it immediately.
Yeah.
Whereas I will not want to tell anyone initially until I've absorbed it a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then once I've absorbed it a bit, I am more comfortable in discussing the thing, whatever that may be.
Yeah.
So I tend to, if something's, if I've had bad news or something's upset me, I tend to go quiet, I think.
Yeah, same.
And there's nothing wrong with that. But I think some people initially, especially the people who are more open, will say, oh, he's a closed book. Or it's not that. I'm just waiting until I'm ready.
Mm.
And I think waiting until you're ready is, I think there's a lot to be said about it. I remember talking to Mark Watson, and he said there's such pressure on talking.
Yeah.
And he was saying that I actually love a text message.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a conversation or a phone call. I think there's something actually I think it's probably to do with the fact that you can prepare what you're saying a little bit and you can review it as you're about to send it. I think that texting or messaging or emailing or whatever, I think is quite often a little bit overlooked. I think it's quite underrated when it comes to discussing your feelings. But I still think though, I think there's a little aspect of me though that wants to keep things in house.
I get you. Yeah.
So there are certain things I probably wouldn't tell everyone, and I think confidentiality. If I have confided in someone and said please don't tell him, that would mean quite a lot, and I would then be upset if they said of course not. I mean, I told Andy.
Yeah, but it's Andy.
Who's Andy?
Yeah. No, what? Okay. Yeah. Actually, it's funny. Actually, I'm the same. I'm just recently. I've just coming out of it now. I've had a few months where I've just been in my own head and wondering what to do next. And then I'm the worst. I say on here all the time, just talk to me or drop me a line, message me or blah blah blah. But just recently, I've not been able to. I've not been able to talk to people, and it got really bad.
Yeah.
And then I've had a few things happen. Sadly, some people died, and it's not been very good. But it just suddenly clicked the other day. It kind of went. It just kind of went. I don't know. You just do it. People, you're going to be fine. And so I spoke to a mate, and then it suddenly felt better. I'm like, okay, yeah. I'd built it up so much that it just got.
Yes.
It just, so yeah, I did need to go. Because I didn't know how to ask in the end. I didn't know how to start the conversation. So in the end, I just had to go, I'm feeling really shit. And then that was it. It went from that.
And also, if they're your mates, they'll listen.
Yeah.
And if they're your mates, they won't judge you. I also think that sometimes your oldest friends aren't the people to talk about because they know too much of your backstory.
Yeah.
I think sometimes talking to a newer friend who won't remember how you would have reacted or responded to this thing when you were 15, 20, 25, 30 or 35 is actually quite helpful because I think if you're opening up someone and confiding in someone, what you are choosing to say, those are the headlines, and that's the thing that's how you want to express it.
Yeah.
And I think that sometimes, obviously not everyone, but I think this is more to do with the person who's opening up. They think, oh, well, now they're going to remember that thing I said in 2001.
Yeah,
That can put an odd pressure on the conversation. It's why I think one of the saddest aspects of getting older is that you tend not to make new friends. Certainly not as much.
No.
or if you do, it's in a work environment.
Yeah.
I think we're lucky because I think stand-up in particular leads to very strong friendships in my experience.
Yeah.
And I don't believe that stand-ups are as bitchy or as bitter as the stereotype would suggest.
No.
Because I've made some brilliant friends out of stand-up. But yeah, it's funny when you eventually do say the thing that's been weighing on your mind, it does tend to be a big burden of relief. Like I read Governor B, the rapper's book.
Yeah.
And he talked about his father died very suddenly. And there's a passage in the book where, because of his upbringing and his mum and dad were from Ghana, and he was brought up in a council estate in East London, I think. He felt completely unable to cry in front of anyone because of the way, because of his upbringing.
Yeah.
And he said there was an enormous pressure when his father died on him not to cry, so he didn't cry at the funeral. And it's quite a powerful passage in the book. And then he does eventually cry. I think he cries in like a garden shed or something, a few weeks after his father passed away. And then he said that night was the first night I'd slept.
Wow.
And you think, what a powerful thing that is. And it shows that it's very, very natural. Like I remember, like I would never tell my kids off for crying.
No.
Whereas certainly when I was young, that was something other mums and dads did all the time. You'd always hear that.
All the time.
What are you bloody crying for?
Yeah.
What are you bloody crying for? It's mad, isn't it? He's 6. He's crying 'cause he's 6.
I'm very emotional. I'll cry. Even now, I cry at films. I blub my eyes out at the holiday at Christmas.
Oh, my God.
Cried my
sport
eyes
is
out.
good, man.
I just cried.
Sporting montages. It's really embarrassing. If I was ever invited to Sports Personality of the Year, I'd be an absolute bloody mess by about halfway in.
It's funny that.
Did so well at the curling, and I don't even like the Winter Olympics.
I remember very recently talking about. I remember when I was a kid. So my dad was into his rugby, not really football. JPR Williams was everywhere. It was always JPR Williams all the time. And because he had such an unusual name, I just loved it. JPR Williams,
Those huge sideburns.
Huge sideburns. And then you see pictures of him now and you're like, oh, that's not how I remember you. Of course you've aged. That was 40 years ago.
Yeah.
You're like, shit.
Well, get this right. JPR Williams, I think he made his debut for Wales in 1969. He was still playing rugby until 2002.
Oh, my God.
He was playing for like his village team as a
Jeez.
sort of 55-year-old. Isn't that amazing?
He just loved it that
Just
much.
loved it, yeah.
Yeah. But he was a proper, he's a proper legend, like one of the old school, like getting arrested for drunk driving and being pissed. And
Well, he was
good, but
he was a doctor as well. I mean, rugby was still amateur those days, so he was a surgeon in the Heath.
Was
in
he?
Cardiff. Yeah.
Jesus.
And so he was a doctor Monday to Friday, and then he was playing for Wales at Cardiff Arms Park for England from 65,000 people on Saturday afternoons, and not getting paid for it, incredibly.
Jesus. Just see, this is a different world, isn't it? And now it's become such a money-making machine. All sports have.
But do you reckon? Because in those days they didn't used to go into the dressing room at half time, so they'd sort of eat their oranges.
Oh yeah.
On the pitch. Do you reckon they ever looked around at 65,000 people all walk into the concourse to buy a hot dog and a Kit Kat and a cup of tea and stuff, and think to themselves, they've all paid for tickets. There's a lot of money in this sport, but
They must have done.
we're live on BBC One. Why don't we get any of it?
I've only got one slice of orange. It's not going to get me through the second half.
One slice of orange and petrol expenses.
You really had to love it. That's the thing.
Yeah.
I suppose you did. Yeah. Mate, this has been lovely. Thank you so much for coming on.
It's my pleasure. I'm not seen for
enjoyed it.
ages.
No, it's been a long time. Well, you kind of went off and became a radio superstar. I don't see
Oh,
you.
superstars, very. I'm not sure I'd agree with that. A radio, just a radio.
You went off and became a radio. Where can we find you? Are you on social media? I don't know.
I'm on social media.
Yeah.
I'm on Twitter, and I'm at Elis James. I'm on Instagram at Elis_James_content.
Nice.
But I often forget to post on Instagram. I only follow about 3 people on Instagram. It makes it a very, very relaxing platform. That's a tip. I've considered unfollowing everyone on Twitter.
Yeah.
Just
There
to
is
see,
you can mute people.
Yeah. That's the one thing as well. I reckon I would be far more productive if I came off social media.
Yeah, same.
But, you know.
It's when you go, I've got so many things I should be doing. And then you go, oh my God, it's been an hour. I'm still sitting in my pants on the bed.
Yes, on the bed. Yeah.
I'm not even dressed yet.
Watching a montage of ex-Man United and Scotland striker Brian McClare retrieving the ball from the net. And it's not even his goals. It's just a montage of him retrieving the ball from the net. Why am I watching this? Oh, I'm watching this because I absolutely love it.
Do you know, it's funny. I'm not even into football, but I've been watching, compilations of like the greatest goals and things like that.
Great, yeah.
And I'm not even into football, but there is sometimes when some of the goals you just go, how the fuck did he get that in from there? I think it's because I was watching Ted Lasso and it kind of got me all fired up.
I do a football podcast, and we're recording this about a week after Wales beat Austria in a World Cup playoff semi-final. And I do a football podcast with Iwan Roberts, who played for Leicester, Norwich and Wales, and Danny Gambardone, who played for West Ham and Cardiff and Crystal Palace in Wales. And Gareth Bale scored this free kick. And Iwan went, I'm just watching it back. How does he do that? I thought, you played in the Premier League. And you sound like me.
Of all the people out of the two of us.
Yeah. How does he do that? And we were like kids. How does he do that? I suppose it's the mark of the man, isn't it?
It is. It just goes to show you what a smashing fella. This has been lovely. Thanks, Elis. Really appreciate it, mate. Give my love to Izzy and I hope she gets well soon.
I will do. Thank you.
And you take care.
Cheers, mate.